your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Now, more than ever, we are being faced daily with the topic of human mortality, and for many people, estate planning has been top of mind. Getting your estate planning done now can be easy and cost-effective. Schroman Law offers virtual options for initial consultations so that new clients can safely initiate the process. With many facing uncertain financial situations, Schroman Law also offers affordable fees for legal documents. Learn more at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
There are things that we experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in a corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us, share your story, share your evidence, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is Ghostbox Radio.
This is Ghostbox Radio on AM 950, where every week we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, or just the unusual. My name is Greg Bakken, and thank you so very much for joining me today. First of all, everyone, Happy New Year. It's been so long since I've done a show. I accidentally drove to WCCO today because I thought that's where I worked, and I was escorted off the property almost immediately. So as soon as I got here, though, luckily someone had to also show me what a microphone was again, because it's been so long since I've seen one. I have no idea anymore, right? So it's been about a month since I've been on. It seems like it's been longer, but it's all good. It's the holidays, everything has been kind of crazy. I know it's crazy for everybody, and right now it's cold. Let's just say it's cold. I mean, we can give a temperature out there, but that just depresses me. So that's kind of what's going on here. But you know what? I thought I'd start off the new year with a bang, and I'm thrilled with our guest today, and that's what we're going to do. James Anito is a demonologist, deacon, paranormal investigator, and researcher that provides his services free of charge to assist homeowners, business owners, and other paranormal teams that require his background in negative hauntings. Currently, James works alongside Carl Johnson in research lecture group Duo Demonology, which started lecturing in 2019. Also, in 2022, James started working with criminologist, you try saying that, Laura Brand, expert on the Toolbox Killers, on the project True Evil, a podcast and lecture series. James, welcome to Ghostbox Radio.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Oh, my gosh. My pleasure. I'd also like to invite all of our listeners to join into the conversation. To do so, call in and ask James a question live on the air. You can call in at 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. Or email us a comment or a question at our station's email address, which is comment@am950radio.com. We are live on AM 950 Radio, but also streaming video on the following Facebook pages: AM 950, Things Network, Paranormal United Network, and Minnesota Ghost Box. So feel free to leave comments there for James or myself. If you have a question, I will see it and I will ask about it. Now, James, I cannot scroll through Facebook without seeing your name attached to something. It seems to be that there's kind of been a James Anito explosion in 2022.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say I built a rapport with people. I'm respectable to people, and I think that sometimes when you do good, your good is reciprocated. You don't have to perform devious or heinous acts to overcome. And I built a good rapport with a lot of people, and I'm respectable to a lot of people. So I think that's generated what you've seen. And I try to give a good word and Some people like it, some people don't, and they get to meet me and get kind of judge me by meeting me. And I talk to anybody. I might forget your name because I'm terrible with that, but I will always be down to earth and respectful, and always will learn something from you, and probably always will learn something from me.
Now, minutes ago, this is breaking news in James Anito's world. Minutes ago, you announced something on your Facebook page, and would you be kind enough to announce it here also, please?
Of course. So I have, this is, of course, just been announced on Facebook like 10 minutes ago, and then on a live broadcast with Patty Negri, Father Sebastian, and Maria Schmidt of Mysterious Adventures.
Yep.
And in May 25th to the June 3rd, we are going to be celebrating the 125th anniversary of Bram Stoker's Dracula. We are going to be touring Romania, and we will be having a dinner, as well as a vampire ball at Bran Castle, and investigating and visiting many different locations in Romania, which is full of folklore, which is full of myth, and which is full of true, authentic history. And I'm very excited about it.
I mean, I'm excited for you, and I might want to take a look into how to be a part of that, how to go along, because that sounds amazing. Is it sold out, or is it still room for people?
Still 19 tickets left. The tickets include basically everything besides your besides your plane flight to Romania, and they're very not expensive. I say not expensive in the realistic state that instead of buying a PlayStation 5, you can buy a ticket to Romania, and of course a little bit more, maybe 2 months of rent, if somehow you can scrunch up that, then it is worth it. I've never been over to Europe, and to be honest, and not to rub it in, Bran Castle is one of my bucket list items. And of course, there's Vlad Tepes's actual fortress, and the forest there that supposedly rivals the Suicide Forest. There's so many locations there that just, I think anybody that's interested in the occult or the paranormal, the supernatural, so on and so on, will have a love and an attraction to Romania.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. And and you're going with 2 wonderful people. I've met both of them. And then you and I met for the first time at the Warrens convention in October of this last year. And that was pretty hectic too, as in terms of the convention itself, how many people. Your table had a nice line, and what were you doing? Were you blessing Bibles? I'm trying to remember what was going on there.
So I bless items for people because
Okay.
For some, they believe in that kind of invocation, and why not draw on faith? Faith is a part of the structure of the brain. There is the limbic system. It's important within that. So for some, I believe that some form of protection is good when you start to dabble, because it is kind of like a bulletproof vest in a sense of war, on a spiritual
Yep.
sense. And nobody has been able to denote faith or religion or belief systems, because it still exists to this day. Theology is a scientific study, if one people believe it or not, but theology is very expansive, and it even gets into neurotheology, which talks about the brain and faith and why it works. So there's so much to it, and so it's pivotal.
When I read your bio at the top of the program, the one thing that always strikes me is the term negative hauntings.
Yes.
Because, as you being a demonologist, and immediately I think everything goes to demons when I think of that. When you say negative hauntings, does that also include non-demonic activity?
Of course, Carl Johnson, I heard you say my introductory. I work with legendary demonologist Carl Johnson. I laugh when I use the word legendary. I respect him, of course, but he's been somebody that everybody knows of and knows why he's accomplished and his beliefs and how smart he is. But in that same sense, I handle all spectrums of the paranormal, supernatural. I've dabbled in ufology. I've dabbled in cryptozoology. I've done Bigfoot hunts. I've done certain other things that people wouldn't think I do because I'm a demonologist. But for you to be a demonologist, you have to understand all levels of hauntings. You have to have a good idea and academic background in the human mind, in some form of psychology or social science. You have to have a lot of different assets to you. And I think that, yeah, everybody jumps down to demon. But, Carl and I have a system of how we kind of define demonology, and that is the study of the lore and traditions of wicked spirits. And wicked could be expansive, evil can be expansive. So, yes, demons are the center point of demonology, but there have been ideas, and there's an etymology to the word demon throughout many different civilizations. Eastern cultures have a form of a demon. They might be called the Zoras, but it's in the same concept of a dualistic belief system. Of course, Zoroastrianism, I totally messed that up because it's always a tough one, but which was the main factor of belief systems in Judaistic, Islamic, Christian belief systems, that had demons. And of course, you see within Islam and Judaistic folklore and belief systems to this modern day in Christianity, of course, they're littered with demons, and Christianity leading the charge, especially in our Western culture, as Christianity is the largest religion in the world by 1 billion followers, if not more now. So that would make sense. But, that is what a demonologist is. We, in that sense, so we don't always deal with demons, but we try to, as people in the paranormal world, and not to linger on this, but it's important for people to know, as a paranormal investigator would collect the data in a form of a haunted location or on a haunted individual or item, we apply it in the sense when people say, oh, I'm dealing with a demon, or there's negative circumstances going on within their house. Yep. We try to determine why this is happening, the pathology of what's occurring. And we try to siphon through the many traditions and folklores and belief systems throughout the days, because I'm Christian doesn't mean that also denotes the fact that something of a valid belief system could exist, because it's, in longer longevity. It was believed in the collective consciousness back then, so it could as well now.
It's really interesting because, and I think you just summed it up very nicely in a sense. Pam in the chat, she says, I think people don't realize how much is involved. And I think, you have just been very clear with just a fraction of what goes into everything. And so why don't we do this? We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about demonology with James Anito. You are listening to Ghost Box Radio on AM 950. We'll be right back.
Happy New Year to all of our great AM 950 listeners from all of us at A1 Vacuum in Roseville. A1 Vacuum welcomes in the new year with a great selection of products and support, as well as a fully staffed service department for all of your vacuum cleaner needs. A1 Vacuum appreciates your continued business over the years and hopes you call upon us again in 2022 as your vacuum cleaner needs arise. Thanks again from A1 Vacuum.
Victor's 1959 Cafe on Grand Avenue is a little piece of Cuba right in South Minneapolis.
Also, when people
all of your
talk
Cuban
about
favorites are
demonology, I
there, like the
sometimes wonder,
mango
you mean party
pancakes,
politics?
sandwich cubano, eggs Havana, Cuban pork barbecue sandwich, and more. Victor's has their dining room open for seating with no reservations required. Plus, they still do takeout and delivery. So have a taste of authentic Cuban cuisine at Victor's 1959 Cafe, located off of 38th and Grand in South Minneapolis. More at victors1959cafe.com.
Have you heard about the District Edina? Well, if you haven't, you're in for a treat. The District Edina is the Twin Cities' newest and most exciting destination for all things home design and remodeling. If you're looking for flooring or window treatments, furnishings, a builder to handle a remodel or an addition, kitchen or bath work, or even original fine art, you will find it at the District Edina. The District Edina, 7777 Washington Avenue South, and online at, wait for it, thedistrictedina.com.
Hi, everyone. AM 950 is grateful to the listeners who stepped up in the last year and helped support the radio station by becoming members. As we move forward, it's still important to help support small businesses like AM 950. We have memberships at any financial level, either a one-time donation or a recurring one, and we appreciate any support. We've already featured a lot of members-only bonus content like the calendars, but we have more benefits coming soon. To become a member, go to am950radio.com. That's am950radio.com. Click on the Become a Member button and sign up today. Thanks from everyone at AM 950.
No matter what vehicle you drive, for quality care, head to Rudy Luther Toyota and get service you can trust. My last service at Rudy Luther, I got to experience the incredibly cool Hunter Quick Check Drive inspection service. It checked my Sienna's alignment and tire treads as I drove into the service area. Done! I got a thumbs up in the comfort of knowing my vehicle is good to go. Get maintenance you can trust and check out the service specials at RudyLutherToyota.com. For your vehicle service, it's Rudy Luther Toyota, 5 miles west of Minneapolis on 394.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
There are things that we experience.
And welcome back to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakken. Thank you for joining us. Our guest today is demonologist James Anito. And James, first of all, before we do that, also want to remind everybody, if you would like to call in at 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. Please also note that if you have a comment in Facebook, and one of the places we're streaming, I am there reading everything, so please put a question in there, and that's what we're going to go to right now. James, Greg Koss has a question for you, and he says, hey, James, a majority of your demonic investigations, are they public or private?
Every single one of them is private because I look at it in the same sense as a therapeutic session. Your therapy session is not publicized unless, of course, it is in a sense in a heinous act, and of course has to deal with something of a psychosis issue where maybe something occurred and the judicial system needs to be involved. As in case, of course, that was a recent part of a movie called The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, where it was the first demonic case or presentation of possibilities of a demon being involved in the United States and why this occurred with Arnie Johnson. But in my sense, they're private. I definitely do not want to publicize. Now, if the person publicizes it, then they do so, but it is not my doing to do so. I talk about cases, but I talk about them in a hip-like state where I don't say names. I don't really give the true location. I might say city and states, but at the same time, these are case studies for me. This is in realization of how I know they exist. Rare in what I've experienced, but very private, and I would never change that because I am not in about exploiting individuals. And now I do believe it exists. For other people wanting to believe it exists, I'm never hoping for somebody to come across it. I never want to. And so, people can believe me or not, but I've come across things that I definitely believe fall in all the lines of the characteristics of a demon through many different belief systems. And like I said, the anthropological viewpoints of it. So it's expansive, but yes, very private, and it needs to stay that way. Some people talk about it, openly talk about it and show it and video record these things. And to me, I think, and the morality of it is, why would the person want to relive the situations that they were going through? I think that opens another door. Post-traumatic stress disorder comes from this. A lot of psychological, and it is a psychodrama in some sense as well. So having all this public nature, I think sometimes can be the wrongdoing of the person you're dealing with.
Well, and that was something that I was going to bring up too, is the idea of like what we're doing in just paranormal investigations. When we clear a house, when if there's something that isn't quite right there, and we get it out of there, we always tell the client, don't talk about it, don't dwell on it, let it go, because when you're talking about it, you're keeping it present, and I can imagine that that's very similar to what you would end up in a demonic case.
Yeah, yes, for sure. But it's not as frequent. Of course, it is pop culture. It is entertainment. It's in all our horror movies, because you gotta understand, people are not going to pay money to watch a boring paranormal investigating. I'm not saying televisions you watch are fabricated. That's for you to come up with your own interpretation. I know a lot of these people, but I also know a lot of the producers. So I look at it differently. But there's an entertainment aspect in movies. They need it. Like, look at the top movies that I believe take the dynamic and the cake. A lot of these are made by James Wan, the Conjuring series, Insidious, which is my favorite of his horror forms. His recent movie, Maleficent, it's another way of saying malevolent.
Yeah.
But it was terrible. But I think if you look at those, there's always an evil element. Insidious is about astral projection, and then something parasitical and insidious or diabolical grabbing forth, and that's that nature. But it's not a story about how he found his grandmother astral projecting. It's about a demon. The Conjuring, of course, enhanced versions of the Ed and Lorraine Warren cases. I mean, enhanced dramatically, and like to the 100% level. But this is a need, because people won't buy tickets to go see something boring, and that's what sometimes my involvement is, or paranormal investigating it is. There are boring elements to it, a lot of boring elements to it. There's a lot of sifting through data. What people don't want to do, and that's what I technically do. I have to analyze an individual psychologically, because I am a student of psychology, but I am no clinical psychologist either. But I have to do my best to kind of analyze an individual, understand the dynamics. But I would say, if I had to give the rarity of these things, in 16 years of being involved in this field as an investigator to ordained minister to a demonologist and so on and so forth, I've only come across a demon, I would say, 5 times.
Sure.
I would say 3 of those cases were of the transient possession, and the other 2 were either a demonic infestation or a demonic oppression. So 5 cases is not a lot in 16 years. And it's more of the individual. It's more of a negative haunting, maybe a spirit that still lingers there for whatever reason we do not know. To this day, I do not believe. And they act sometimes inaccordingly, negatively. And I think sometimes it's because of a domain space. They think this is still their territory. And if, like anybody, if you were in my home and you thought this is your house, I'd say this is not your house. And it might even get to the level of an altercation. Yeah. And sometimes that's what occurs.
No, absolutely. And, before we head off to break, I'm just going to ask you, how prepared are cases when they come to you? I mean, I guess my question is, do people have a really good case to give to you in terms of what is happening at the place, so that it doesn't feel like it's something that maybe is, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, like so you are completely prepared for what you're walking into?
To sum it up very quickly before our break, I basically could have no information to a lot of information. Sometimes cases are brought to me by family members that give me the basis of their attitude change, their personality change. They maybe dabbled into something, or were renounced into something, or provoked or indicated something. And sometimes it's groups or the client themselves. Every single dynamic's different. Just like dealing with every person is different, because everybody has their own personality, their own subculture, their own culture, their own dynamic of who they are. So every case is different, and how I am involved in it is different. Sometimes I have to collect all the data. Sometimes it's presented to me, and I do a preliminary and all that, and I do a 3-stage interview regardless.
Sure. Yep.
because I don't want to be biased. I don't want to be told something and say yes, yes, yes. I'm not that way. I'm very analytical, and I am, not so gullible. I don't like to be told what it is. I like to find out myself.
No, that makes perfect sense. So why don't we do this? Yeah. Let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about demonology with James Anito, along with your questions. You're listening to Ghostbox Radio on AM 950. We'll be right back.
While shopping for a fireplace insert at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, I was amazed at all the choices. Not just gas, electric, or wood burning, but also built-in or freestanding, and options in every style from antique to modern. The staff really listened to us, explained the options, and helped us choose a fireplace we absolutely love. Now it warms our hearts and our home every winter. Thank you, Woodland Stoves, for a great addition.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak, putting in a word for the EPA Burn Wise campaign. It has important information about clean burning fireplaces. This is an important part of our mission at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. We know that the fireplace has to work. Work with your life, work with your living space, and also be environmentally smart. Come see us. Learn to burn wise. We have over 35 working units on display at the corner of Riverside and East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis. Visit our store in person or online at woodlandstoves.com.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
This is New Beginnings, hosted by award-winning broadcaster and speaker Freddie Bell.
Freddie, this generation of the baby boomers, people are living longer, so the baby boomers are taking care of elderly parents.
Let's talk about your health, and specifically, let's talk about Medicare. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, and even entertainment.
Join us for New Beginnings, Saturday mornings at 11, brought to you in part by Vision Loss Resources.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The new year is here, and it's time to take advantage of Zero Res's best deal of the year. Your carpets, tile, hardwood floors, rugs, and upholstery have dirt and stains on them from holiday festivities, so it's time to call Zero Res. Don't forget your air ducts to help alleviate allergies or asthma. And it's also important to enjoy less dust, lower energy bills, and your home staying cleaner longer. Zero Res uses ZR water to clean without using harsh chemicals and detergents. Book and clean now through January 15th to get 22% off all services. Zero Res has a 4.9 rating on Google with over 12,000 reviews, and the Zero Res Gotta Love It guarantee makes it easy to get what you pay for. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZERO-RES, and don't forget to ask for the AM 950 special. Forward or backward spells the same. Zero Res.
Why must the world be so cold? They've gone against what was told. Thinking rape is cool, think about it. They think it's not wrong, violence against women, the rape, the abuse, the emotional, physical. They all hold the hate, think about it. Is it right or wrong? What attracts you? I'm not saying no names, but you laugh. Talk about it like nothing is wrong. Think about it. They all hold the hate, gotta stop the violence. Stop the hate, think about it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
I am a featured guest at this year's Council Room Convention in Bloomington, Minnesota that runs January 21st through the 23rd. Council Room is a local Doctor Who convention in its 9th year. I will be there doing talks on both the paranormal and a very much a love of mine, British television. It's going to be a great time with other very talented featured guests there too. It's coming up quickly, so get your tickets at council-room.com. console-room.com. That's console-room.com, and I hope to see you there. And also, don't forget that Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Facebook pages Things Network, Paranormal United Network, and Minnesota Ghost Box, I do a live Spirit Box session. This is an opportunity to not only see some paranormal gear at work, but the possibility to reach out to your loved ones who have passed. This is a very positive program, and I hope you join us tonight to reach out to spirits. Also, if you miss Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakken Live, AM 950 replays these episodes Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or you can listen anytime by going to Spotify or iTunes. After listening, please leave a positive review for my show. I would greatly appreciate it. Now we return to our guest today, demonologist James Anito. If you would like to ask him a question live on air, you can call in at 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. You can also leave a comment in the Facebook live streams. That would be great. There's plenty of time left to get in questions. And one of the things I wanted to talk about, James, was you had mentioned in the last segment that in your 16 years of doing what you do, that you've run across about 5 demonic cases. And my question about that is, I mean, I just have to know, what is that like to actually have a case where there is a true demon? What does it feel like in there? What is the overall sense of what's happening in there?
So in the sense, and I say I laugh on myself because I'm a very forgetful person. I made that a light when I say I forget names, but I really am. I'm like a squirrel with many nuts.
Sure.
I see a new nut, I go after it. That comes when it comes with my knowledge as well. I'm very sporadic. And when I learn, I could be reading one book and then jump to another. So that's in that sense the same approach. Yes. But yeah. Sorry, I lost myself. I'm tired. What was that question again?
No problem. No problem. I was just wondering, because you said that you had done, there's been about 5 cases that have had demons in it. And I'm just curious what that is like, what that energy is like that you're dealing with. And, perhaps the idea that you kind of move on from cases like that, you're not remembering a lot, might be something good for you, right?
Well, see, I was kind of a joke. Remember, I said I was forgetful, so I got to play in you on that. But in that
we're gonna introduce our next guest now. Thanks for being on.
But in the same sense, Greg, right? They're cases that I remember. I have sifted through so many cases. I have a case file, like in a case file cabinet with manila folders and all this stuff of questionnaires and case file sheets that I fill out with barometric pressures and the temperatures and any fluctuations that I have from readings, or recorded notes of maybe certain electronic voice phenomenon or certain points in the videography where there could be something that could be plausible as paranormal activity. I have that, but I don't remember all these cases. Not all of them are those moments that, like, holy crap, I remember this, that. I remember all the little gritty nitty details.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, I'm enamored by it, but no, why I say that is because of how daunting these cases were, how they hit me on an emotional chord, how they how I seen the family terrified. And yeah, I don't denounce that there was psychological and traumatic experiences that enabled these situations. Yes, of course, those dynamics were there. There was some trouble within the individual that dealt with this projection of this demon or this invocation of this exterior parasitical force. But these cases ring out to me. They have had some form of psychological testing involved, or medical or scientific involved to these spectrums, where our specialists look over these individuals and could not come up with modern nomenclature of why this was occurring.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean nothing's not discovered and it can be explained 10 years down from the line. But some of these cases, if you asked me 10 years ago about how many cases that were demonic I came across, I might have gave you a bigger number. Mm-hmm. And in that sense, because I looked at it differently, my imagination was more at play. I had misunderstandings of what I was dealing with. And I think you hear this in, of course, misconceptions.
Yeah.
academia changed me. Working with individuals like as Carl Johnson, talking to people and having good friendships with Ralph Sarchi, John Zappis, and name Keith Johnson, name a few. I hate to shout out names, but you have to respect these individuals. Having the pleasure to work with Dan Rivera, Tony Spera, and Chris Galoran of Nesper, and doing things with them. Like, I've had the pleasure to work with these individuals, learn from these individuals, and there's a huge dynamic of the paranormal involved with the incorporation of all these individuals and ideas, and working with the Catholic Church, and then also being ordained in 2 different Christian denominations, and learning from that realm of things. So in that sense, I remember these cases. They were diabolical in nature. These people, the possession cases, these people definitely went under a fit of rage that was beyond physical or medical comprehension. And of course, there are many diagnoses of schizophrenics and people bipolar and manic states and psychotic episodes that can do some of these things. But when you're adding so many other preternatural realms, supernatural realms to it, where certain things cannot be understood to this modern day, which we do know a lot. Neurology has changed so much about what we know about the human mind, but still so much unexplained of what we can process and how we can project it to the world.
Well, and also I would add too, because you had mentioned too, like you would change the number of cases due to a lot of circumstances, including what you've understood now, and I think that's obviously the same with history itself, right? With the Vatican doing exorcisms, and what we know now for mental illness is much more vast than they did in the Middle Ages or the 1800s.
Well, we knew, to be honest, if especially being a student of psychology, but I've had a lot of friends that have doctorates or masters in psychology, bachelors in psychology, or some involved in like clinical parapsychology or parapsychologist, like the group I work with, PPRI, with Elliot Van Hoosen. If you look at it in the spectrum, there's always different answers to everything different, but there is that element. There is that situation, that occurrence.
So I got a question from someone watching, Tim, and he asks if you've ever gotten a name of any of the demons in the cases that you had been, if a name has ever been given out.
So yes, I've received names. Everybody has read probably or heard the Goetta, and know the hierarchy of demons and so on and so on. But in that same sense, though, most of the times I've heard this, even early in my, I want to say career, but my ability of doing this, my vocation, is that I've always heard about people getting names. And the more that I've learned, I understand the manipulation factor of a demonic haunting and the way it is invited to allow infestation, oppression, or obsession, then to transit possession or perfect possession. So most people that get demon names, I usually always like to laugh at and say that it is not a demon, because why would an enemy that uses this manipulative forces at their advantage, because they're unseen, give its name out and say this is who I am, unless they're really narcissistic? And
right.
Some people say that demons are, but no, they're very intelligent and they're very smart, and they use and make ploys occur. So if you get a name, it's most likely either, especially if it's on radio waves, if you're doing a ghost box session, could be because of somebody talking about it. You'd be surprised it does occur in the atmosphere, but most of the time it's maybe an intelligent spirit, knowing that it'll cause some kind of response. Because if we use the word intelligent, they are intelligent, right? They understand how to interact with humans because they were once human, or observed humanity and knows what kind of revels in us. But no, a demon usually does not tend to give its name out unless it is forcibly in nature through spiritual provocation, religious provocation, where you ask for the name and maybe in itself that you are able to receive it. But it's not always needed for it to be casted out.
No.
And back to the other question, a little off, is that even Epicurus, the basically the father of medicine, performed exorcisms on people as a form of psychotherapy. And Epicurus is from like the explosion of Greeks, Socrates and Plato and all that stuff, and Aristotle. So Epicurus has been known for performing these exorcisms, and so the religious provocation is needed. Sometimes it is in a psychological sense, and it works because that's what they want to believe, and it's over with. Or it really does, in fact, cause apprehension and cause the person that's under this exorcism or deliverance or expulsion ritual to regain their foothold, their free will, and battle back, spiritually and mentally against this evasive force. And that's why these words and why an imploring and receiving of the name will work, because once you know your enemy, it's easier to defeat your enemy. And you can go read some Sun Shao about learning about your enemy.
So going back, I mean, and my experience in that area, years ago, I was at the Villisca Axe Murder House, and I had asked through Spirit Box, because my name came through, and I'm asked, well, you know my name, what's your name? And the name, and then it answered, it said Satan. And almost immediately it's like, no, come on. I mean, I can't, no, don't, you're not scaring anybody with that. It's one of those, I'm sorry, it's kind of cool in a sense to hear that, but it's not laughable, because that's disrespectful. And there is something that, you got to be careful about that in those situations. But it was immediately, it's like, no, that is not who you say you are. And it's very clear that it was some sort of, I would think, some human entity who, like you just said, knew that it would scare me or try to scare me. So yeah, no, I've run across that too. It's very interesting, the games that are played by spirits when you do some of these investigations.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's different dynamics. If it wasn't called the paranormal, then it would be knowable. It would
just the normal.
But even I like the play, the old saying. Even impossible says I am possible, and in some fact that's reality, because yes, psychology and science, or STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, can explain 99.9% of everything at some point in time. But there's always going to be a situation that's not discovered, or a miracle, or an epiphany, or a supernatural occurrence, because it's there. It does exist in my belief and what I've encountered. And even if it is psychic projection, like psychokinesis or PK activity or ESP, it is still phenomenal that
right.
It can be that it can occur, that we can implement or implant something through just existing. And that's fascinating in itself, even if that is what it comes out to be. To me, that's still like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we take our last break? When we come back, we're going to finish our conversation with demonologist James Anito. You're listening to Ghost Box Radio on AM 950.
It's time to experience the amazing flavors of EatLocalMinnesota.com. It's your key to unlocking the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities.
Crooner's Supper Club is a little piece of old-school nightlife in the 21st century. Enjoy a delicious dinner, fabulous cocktails, and music from some of the best jazz artists at the newly refurbished main stage, or in the intimate Dunsmore Room with its stunning views of Moore Lake. Crooner's Supper Club is just north of 694 off Highway 65. Find the upcoming music schedule and more details at croonersmn.com. Come visit the award-winning Hazel's Northeast in Minneapolis for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or weekend brunch. For breakfast, try the slow-cooked brisket hash, hippie cakes, and meat waffle. While for lunch, enjoy favorites like the buttermilk fried chicken sandwich or veggie burger. Hazel's is open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 8 to 8, with a Sunday brunch from 8 to 2. Located off 29th and Johnson in Northeast Minneapolis. More at hazelsne2go.com.
Hello, this is Ellie Krug with Ellie 2.0 Radio. Now my show will be on Saturdays from 10 to 11 and replayed on Sundays from 1 to 2. You will get to the best of Ellie 2.0 with talking about idealism, with guests who come in and who are idealistic, who are trying to change the world, and you will get me, Super Idealist. Tune in. We can't wait to hear from you, and you'll hear from me. Saturdays from 10 to 11.
Ryan here with locally owned Snap Construction. Hey. Too much snapping. I have an important message. Roofing, siding, insulation, and window material rates have come down considerably. Production is up. Best of all, there's still time to lock in one of the many great city, state, and federal home fix-up loans with rates as low as 0%. Some cities are even offering no repayment until you sell or refi. We don't expect these programs to last much longer. Snap to it and set up your no-obligation inspection quote for your roofing, siding, windows, or insulation job today. Your Snap Construction remodel expert can lay out all the options for your roofing, siding, window, insulation project, along with all rebates, incentives, and federal, state, and city financing programs that you qualify for. Call Snap Construction today, home of the lifetime craftsmanship warranty. For over the last decade, we are arguably the most well-reviewed roofing, siding, window, insulation contractor in the Twin Cities. Don't take our word for it. Google us. Snapconstruction.com, 612-333-SNAP.
Hi, this is Ken Hageland, host of Living Healthy and Aging Well, inviting you to listen to our live call-in talk show airing every Saturday from noon to 1, where we talk about your health and your life and provide insights you need to know to live and age well. Each week we talk with guests who provide answers to important questions regarding health care, elder care, end-of-life care, and self-care for caregivers, and help you and your loved ones plan for the future and enjoy your highest quality of life today. Please join us every Saturday from noon to 1 on AM 950 for Living Healthy and Aging Well.
And join us next week on Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakken. We are going to have on paranormal investigators Ernie and Denise Pack from Pac-Man Paranormal. We are focusing on a haunted location that is very dear to many of us, Waverly Hills. We'll be discussing what is going on at that location. But if you want to do some early homework for the show, check out SaveWaverlyHills.com. SaveWaverlyHills.com. And you're going to be able to read all about what's going on there and hopefully make a donation. Please check it out. We'll talk about it more next week. For our final segment, we return to our guest today, demonologist James Anito. And, James, I do want to talk a little bit about your podcast and other things going on, but I do have one comment that was made on the Facebook page by Ken, and I wanted your thoughts on it. Ken had wrote, "Demons are more like human beings than most will admit."
Yeah, I guess I can probably say no to that, because that's the problem with sometimes humans, that we try to humanize everything, and that's not the fact. Like, we say God as him, and I make this mistake sometimes, but God's not a him or a she, or God's God. And so we're gods and gods of other different mythologies and beliefs. Yes, Zeus is shown as a male, but technically, maybe God could appear as Zeus could appear as anybody, which he has been interpreted to do so, but he reflects as his image as what is presented in human society for the interpreter, even though that is false and it was myth and folklore. And, they knew at their places of worship that there was smoke and mirrors. The chariot would come in because it was on chains, and we'd be surprised they had that technology back then, but guess what? They did.
Yeah.
But it was smoke and mirrors. And so there has been always that form and that understanding of a humanization, but it's easier for us humans to interpret what we would do because it's easier for us to understand it. But it could totally be totally different in our understanding of why and what occurs in that cosmic state. I don't know if it's angels and demons fighting each other. All I know is these things that fall into the lines of these characteristics of what is interpreted through human conception have some connection and has some relatability to it. Maybe it's these spirits or these entities tend to use what our understanding of it as a way to show itself, because if it showed itself as something we did not conceive or comprehend, maybe we would not be scared of or appalling or thankful for it. So they discern to us the way that we are able to understand. I think we humanize way too much, and I think there's just things that we can never explain. We might never explain, and that's why the study of life after death has been one of the leading studies since our human conception of however it occurred, Adam and Eve, or two different species mating and creating the first human, which probably might have happened through anthropological viewpoints. But in that sense, we just humanize too much, and that I could get too complex on that.
Yeah,
it's a good question, but I definitely think the inner demon of us is what helps the projection of maybe this exterior force or this consciousness, but that doesn't mean what we project is human. So it's weird to interpret. You can look at it two different avenues, but if it does exist the way many people think it does, then no, it's not human in nature. But there can be forms in time where the inner demon, we project it. And, like Carl likes to use the word, and if you know what a poltergeist is, it's the interpretation of a noisy ghost, but poltergeist is really a projection of an individual through psychokinesis, a psychic tantrum. But so like Carl likes to call it, and he's more leaning towards this, and I'm more in the middle. I think it's multiple different things, but he likes to call it a poltergeist with an attitude, which is funny, but could be true as well. That doesn't mean the poltergeist is either male or female. It's a poltergeist. It's a thing.
We could get really deep on this, couldn't we? We could have like another few hundred episodes on this alone, couldn't we? And just keep kind of going on it. And I want to, maybe when you come back, because you are coming back whether you like it or not. But when you do, maybe we can kind of go in that. I wanted, before the show ends, I wanted to talk about duodemonology. And talk a little bit about what that is. We have about 2.5 minutes left in the show.
Of course. So I'll be very fast. Duodemonology is Carl Johnson and myself, two demonologists that try to take the archaic medieval viewpoints of demonology, which is a branch of angelology, which is a branch of theology, and we try to bring it to the modern sense where this is what could occur, this is why it occurs, and we try to take the empirical data that's present through science, and we apply it into the unknown. Duodemonology can be reached out, and we have our own YouTube series, our own Facebook series, podcast, vidcast, whatever you like to call it, where we talk about these subjects. You can look up as Duodemonology, Daemonologie, which is the old way of saying it, the old English version of King James, who made it modernized, who wrote the book called Daemonology. We take both of our conceptions of knowledge and our ways of investigating and our viewpoints, and we try to lecture and also deal with cases of our expertise and try to let people know what we do. And also the easiest way to find us, if you can't understand the old English version of it, we actually, and I'm still surprised to this day we have it, but we can easily be found at demonology.org, DEMONOLOGY.org.
Wow, that's a prime URL there you got.
It is, my man. And but I also want to give a shout out. I know I was probably a minute in itself, but I also want to give a shout out. You did as well. I also have a new podcast starting.
Yes,
February 27th with Carl Johnson, Alicia Marco Carlson, Laura Brandt, and Jeff Bellinger, where we talk about we talk about urban legends and satanic rites. It's called True Evil. It is taking the expert of the toolbox killers. She's a forensic psychologist, aka criminologist, and I am a demonologist, and we're taking both of our centric opinions, more like the true version of the show Evil.
Yep.
And we are taking it in a podcast, lecture, and in sense, probably if I do come across a case, I probably will utilize her talents as well. So, this is two things I'm working on, and I think that hopefully it will change the dynamic and understanding of people's viewpoints.
Where will we be able to find True Evil when it's ready to go?
So it will be found on YouTube. It will be found on Spotify, podcast locations, Facebook through either Laura or I's channel, and eventually the website host that I already have, trueevil.us, TRUEEVIL.us. And that website should be up hopefully before the podcast.
James Anito is a demonologist, deacon, paranormal investigator, and researcher that provides his services free of charge to assist homeowners, business owners, and other paranormal teams that require his background in negative hauntings. James, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure, and I definitely would love to be back on, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back next week.
Aho, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. On our show, we talk about Native issues